This is the future.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Warframe video. Today we will be talking about the new augment of the Warframe Nidus, the different builds that you can use, and also let's talk about if the augment is worth the investment. So the augment can be purchased from the Steel Meridian Syndicate. If you have enough standings, then you can just get it now. If not, then other players are selling it in the Warframe market. Take note that to get Syndicate standings, you only need to select a Syndicate and just run any missions and get affinity. Right now it's double affinity weekend, so you can get standings fast for your Syndicate. The augment is simple, and what it does is provide Nidus with an extra health percentage, which is dependent on the number of mutation stacks you have. If you think of it, this augment is amazing since it now scales with power strength mods. If you have 400% or more power strength, then most likely you can get around 12,000 health with a max 100 mutation stacks. If you have the abundant mutation though, it can scale up to 30,000 health at max 300 stacks. The only problem though is you can't equip any vitality mods when you choose to have the Parasitic Vitality augment. Now with this build, my max power strength can go over 400% and it gives me around 35,000 health values at max 300 stacks. The only downside though is when equipping the abundant mutation augment, I lose the efficiency of Nidus invulnerability passive. Basically, if Nidus takes a lethal hit, he becomes invulnerable for 5 seconds, consuming 15 mutation stacks in the process. With abundant mutation, the passive still consumes 15 mutation stacks, but now has a 30 seconds cooldown instead of the normal mechanic that has no cooldown, and you can abuse it as long as you have 15 mutation stacks to consume. This is where the argument if 30,000 plus health values are even worth it with Nidus, because honestly, his main survivability is his invulnerability. If you want to go in level cap, then the insatiable augment is better compared to abundant mutation plus parasitic vitality. I say this because the former gives you an increased chance of getting mutation stacks per cast of your virulence, hence letting you abuse the 5 seconds invulnerability of your passive. But if you are not doing any level cap runs, then the Parasitic Vitality setup is fun, as health tanking steel path enemies is very satisfying. Okay, let's get back to the Nidus build first that I showed you earlier. So this is the Parasitic Vitality setup I have been using for my Nidus after the Dante Unbound update. For non-helmet builds, you can still use the same mod setup, but the effectiveness of Larva is not that great since it only has 17 meters radius of pull range. It's still good, but in reality, you need more than that to pull almost all enemies within the room. That is why instead of using Larva, I decided to subsume and snare. Korra's ability has a lower pull range compared to Larva, but the ability does propagate, which means after pulling targets, it can still pull other targets that spawn lately. In addition, it doesn't require you to lower your duration or put another augment mod so you can recast the ability again. Simply find another target and just cast and snare again, and you'll be pulling another group of enemies. In addition, Korra's ability can ensnare acolytes, so it's really great in steel path levels. Now this is just a preference and not necessary, but I like to add the Nautilus Sentinel for its cordon mod precept that also pulls enemies within 30 meters. I know that this is not needed, but it actually makes Nidus more efficient in generating mutation stacks. You have 2 options to group enemies, hence allowing your virulence ability to generate more mutation stacks. By the way, the Parasitic Vitality augment doesn't increase the health values of your Sentinel since obviously these companions can't equip the Link health mod. Dog and cat companions do benefit from the new Nidus augment, but it's kind of different when used with allied Warframes. When you use your Link ability into allied Warframes, they will get the same health percentage bonus as the augment, along with the power strength buff that it gives. In fact, the health values would be better since your allies can equip all the health mods they want. People are saying that Inaros can reach over 100,000 health with Nidus new augment, but that was before when the augment was bugged and didn't scale with power strength. Now that it scales with strength mods, I wonder how much health values can the Warframe get with the Parasitic Vitality augment. In the case of your pets, Link health mod will take 125% of the max value you have after Parasitic Vitality is applied and give it to your pet's health values. This means that your pet will have more health values, and it's good for survivability, especially if you are using farming setup like Smita Kavat, or even the Mecha Pulse set for both nuking and survivability. However, be warned that every time your Parasitic Link ends, the health values of both Nidus and your companion will reset, which makes you vulnerable to one-shot hits if you don't have any mutation stacks. This is why at higher levels, mutation stack generation is important, as Nidus is not a Warframe that can rely on constant overguard or shield gating mechanics. He only has damage redirection and health tanking for survivability. Also, you should take note that the Parasitic Vitality doesn't work with allies like your Necromech or on-call crews. The good thing though is that your companion is tanky enough to withstand and survive enemy hits. Unlike the normal Nidus, the health values from Parasitic Vitality does help in survivability, as with the normal Nidus build. The cats and dogs is not affected by the invulnerability passive of Nidus, hence you will see them being knocked down most of the instead of you benefiting from their utility mechanics. Another thing is that with all that health values, you will need a healthy amount of damage reduction and health regeneration. Nidus health regeneration is not enough to restore 30,000 plus health in just a matter of seconds. You would probably want to rely on something like Arcane Grace or subsume an ability called Blood Altar to somehow out-heal enemy damage. By doing so, you will lower your max health because you will need to remove Molt Augmented, and while the health restore is good, still I can't recommend it against Beyond Steel Path enemies. Now, I'm not saying here that the Augment is bad, but I'm only showing you here the limitations of the Augment. I am showing you the facts that if you decide to use the Augment, then there are certain limits to how far you can use it in real missions. The Augment is great in team composition, and it's especially fun to use if you want to have fun with a friend using an Arrows. If you want to check out how much health value you get from maxing out your strength mods, then I'm pretty sure that you will have tons of giggles seeing how broken the health values of an Arrows. Also, as I have said earlier, it's satisfying face-tanking enemies and play the real tank setup that doesn't require any shield gating or overguard mechanics. We all know that shield gating is meta right now, and it's good to see a build that doesn't rely on such mechanics. Parasitic Vitality Nidus is great in Steel Path levels, especially with Abundant Mutation, but you can do more from the build if you decide to. You can go with an Ore Gaze setup with 3 augments in your build. The setup makes you a farming Warframe that grants you extra resources when you have killed a petrified enemy. The same modding can be applied with the Ore Gaze setup, but you will need to trim down some armor to equip the Abundant Mutation mod. If you just prefer the base 100 mutation stacks, then you can just keep Umbral Fiber in this build. By the way, I forget to mention that Abundant Mutation doesn't just add health values to Parasitic Vitality, but it also adds damage to your Virulence ability. If you have the Augment, then you can increase the damage of your first ability, giving you over hundreds of thousands of damage sometimes at full mutation stacks. This build with Molt Augmented can give me more than 400% power strength that grants Orgaze a 100% chance to drop additional loot. Now, instead of Arcane Grace, I still choose Arcane Guardian to give me an 87% damage reduction on health. New players might be confused about the damage redirection part of Nidus' third ability, but what it does is redirect the damage you got to the enemy you are linked to. It's not damage reduction, but some sort of redirecting damage to enemies. If you want the full benefit of this, then you'll have to give Nidus damage reduction on health also. This allows your Nidus to be more tanky, as the enemy you are linked to will receive lower damage, making it survive longer and making your Nidus tanker in return. Parasitic Vitality with Ore Gaze is good, but I will still be an effective farming Warframe without the new augment of Nidus. As I have said, I am showing you all the possible builds that you can do with Nidus' new augment, and it shows you that you can still play the Warframe without the increase in health values. More health values don't translate to the best survivability for Nidus, as his invulnerability is more important. Now, I haven't shown you the Teeming Virulence build, but it's the same mod setup as the other Nidus builds. Only this time you decide whether you'll use a 3-mod setup or choose not to equip the Abundant Mutation mod. With all the things I have shown you, it's clear that the Parasitic Vitality augment doesn't drastically change how you play Nidus. It's a good and fun augment, but it has limitations. I'm still longing for that day that Nidus will be given a real purpose in the game and not just the ability to survive level cap with his Undying passive. The Warframe is tough as hell, but I'm still hoping for that one augment that turns the Warframe into a farming Warframe. I know this is absurd, but I am still hoping that Nidus' 4th ability or his Virulence will get an augment for loot farming. What I'm hoping is that if Digital Extremes decides to make an augment for his 4th ability, then I wish that it would be something that gives additional loot to those enemies that have Magus latched on. Or I would love to use an augment for Virulence that grants every kill of the ability additional loot. Honestly, I am dreaming too much, but I just want my favorite Warframe to have another purpose than just surviving. Now, I would like to hear your thoughts about the new Warframe augment and the augment that I would like Nidus to have in the game. Let's discuss this in the comments section below. Also, I humbly ask that you like and subscribe to this video to help please the YouTube algorithm and aid our channel grow. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in my next video. Squad Leader, signing off.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future.